I see he's joined us, so I'll hand over to Tina. We're on item 16.6, adoption of the annual report for the year ending 30th of June 2025 on page 27. So thanks, Tina.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, so I'm being mindful that we have a new council and some new faces at the table. I'll just take a wee moment just to briefly highlight the process that is the annual report and how that works for an entity such as a council. So the annual report is designed to provide something transparent that is available to our community so they can assess the performance of council. So that's not only financial, which is often what people default to, but it's also on the service performance and deliverability of a capital program, just performance broadly. We're required to adopt the annual report within 4 months of our balance date, so that's 31st of October, which is today. The purpose of the annual report has been included in the agenda item at point 6. You'll note particularly that it is designed to promote the local authority's accountability to the community for the decisions made throughout the year by council. Our audit process actually began 6 months ago in April. So we had our interim audit and then a wee break, our pre-final audit in July, and the final audit commenced on the 22nd of September. So that audit is effectively finishing for the annual report, is finishing today with receipt of the audit opinion. You will have seen the draft audit opinion that was circulated earlier in the week, so I'll let Rudy speak to that in more detail shortly, but essentially it is unchanged apart from the page references to the version that you saw earlier this week. Just touching on the annual report summary. So a summary is required to be adopted within a month of adopting the annual report, and that's a key communication tool. I guess it's a bit more reader friendly given that it's vastly shorter than the full annual report document. So we'll continue to work on that with the audit in order that we can meet the deadline there of 30th of November. Just a few thanks. It is a big job, and in many areas our teams are quite small. So the finance team, of which there's pretty much two, Jackie and Melissa, have done a significant amount of work to pull this report together, especially while I was absent for some of that period. So yeah, I think they deserve a big thank you. It does encroach on the wider corporate services team, who in many respects do complementary roles to support the finance team. We rely on information to come from strategy for the presentation of the performance measures into the annual report. We rely on assets to ensure they've completed their valuations, fair value assessments. There's a number of areas that have to review the assets that fall within their area of management. So it really does touch on most departments of council. At the end of the chain, and often under the most time pressure, is the document production area, and so it's no mean feat to be dropping everything and making changes as required in order to keep things moving efficiently. So yeah, big thank you to Michelle and her very small team there that make sure that happens. We're not quite finished with Rudy as our director, with a couple of smaller engagements left to go, but just wanted to, on behalf of staff, with the Audit New Zealand rules, I hope I'm saying this correctly, Rudy, you'll be retiring from the Waimate District Council engagements, And so I just wanted to thank Rudy for his time where he's been our director and just in his guidance to ensure that we're moving forward in a positive way, because I see audit processes as about improvement. So thank you, Rudy. We've enjoyed working with you.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so we'll move on to the changes that have occurred since the version that you received in the agenda. Audit is quite time critical. Things often keep moving. So as much as we've given you the version, there have been changes since. So I alluded to that in the agenda. We've tabled a list of the changes, which I've given you a copy of there. And Carolyn is going to kindly share the PDF version of the document to illustrate the changes, so you don't need to worry about diving into your own annual report. So can we have the other one, Carolyn? The actual document, so you can see the pages, and perhaps we can try and shrink that down maybe so we can see most of the page on one page. Looking good. Awesome. Okay, so this has just got the pages that have changed since, and so we'll just quickly whip through those, because you need to be aware of any changes that have been made before you actually adopt the annual report. Okay, so the contents page, if we move to this next page, Carolyn, there was a reference there to the statement of compliance and responsibility, and I see some page numbers too. The next one was page 9, wellbeing assessment information. Oh, sorry, Carolyn. It's just literally the next page on your one.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we tried to make it simple
Easy
by
for you.
just having only the pages that have changed.
Right.
Yeah, no, all good. Thank you. So the wellbeing assessment information, there were some what I would describe minor updates there. Okay, the next one was just a removal of a text box. Next one after that, the service performance judgments and assumptions. There was an amendment to the heading and additional disclosures added in there. Okay, the next one was water performance measures. Sorry, that one there wasn't it. It just meant that page changed because information was pushed onto it because of the insertion. Yeah. So we can circulate this to you as well. The next page after that one should be the water performance measures. So there was some tweaking there with not applicable being reported for the 23-24 results, updating of the 24-25 results, and some additional information as well as a footnote. So the result, from my understanding, the results haven't changed. It's just a presentation and additional information. Next performance measure 1, and that'll push some things on. Next performance measure 1 was for playgrounds and maintenance inspections. So a few more after the waters.
Oh, okay.
Should be, yes, looks like it there, yep. Just again a minor change. A response had been recorded as a yes no, but instead it's been shown as a percentage. The next one, statement of compliance responsibility, and responsibility was added. So just minor. The rates income affordability benchmark. You'll see if we highlighted bit there in the graph, a set of rates, revenue, it's been updated to say rates income. Next one after that is the statement of accounting policies. The highlighted bit there was included, and that then pushed text onto the following page. You can keep going down, please. Yep, note 2, rates revenue. So we've added the downlands rate collected as a separate disclosure. And then the next one, note 7. There was some updating of depreciation rates for roading, and the Waimate Event Centre depreciation rate was also amended. Note 11. Downlands has been separated out as its own section for the receivables. And note 14, core assets. There's been some values updated here. Note 21. There's been some changes there. The disclosure between the revaluation, disposal and impairment of assets have been updated. Note 23, contingencies. Very minor tweak in wording there, just to represent that something had happened rather than was going to happen, so just the tense. 24, some just presentational, some dollar signs in there. A handful more, like 27, the insurance value for roading and for us and the lake cover amended to 170 million. 28, the Waimate Event Centre impairment loss is noted as a building revaluation, so that section here has been updated. 30. There's been a new note added for local water done well. And yeah, essentially the what else we've got on there? But page references. Oh yeah, right. Yeah, if you keep going down, Carolyn, please. The page references at the bottom of that one were updated just to reflect anything that had moved as things were inserted. So I appreciate that's a bit of a speedy version. However, I would suggest that most of those, I would agree that most of those changes are relatively minor across the board. Does anyone have any questions on those changes? Which you can refer to those in your own time, of course.
Do any of them change, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, to remember the process. Do any of them like materially change the bottom line? Or like change the financial outcomes?
Not from the version that you received in the agenda, is my understanding.
Okay.
Any other questions? Most of those questions, those changes?
Not related to those changes, no.
No.
I have other questions.
Yeah, we'll get to those in a second. Yep.
Awesome. Okay.
Thanks, Tina.
Okay, so then if we can I'll just briefly discuss the results before I hand over to Rudy. I'm mindful Rudy's got availability to 1:30, so just briefly talking about the results of the annual report. So on an operational level, council performed favourably to budget with a surplus of 1.43 million compared to the budgeted deficit of 0.524 million. So there has been narrative included in the agenda item. I'll just highlight a few things which contribute to that, which is important that we understand. I think I'm aware it can be a challenge for people, especially in our community, to understand why surpluses result and what does that mean. Often believing that translates to something in cash. I'll talk about a few things that include items that are non-cash, which is part of the reason we've achieved this result.
First question some people ask, saying, oh, well, you run a surplus, so my rates will be less next year. And they just don't understand about unders and overs. And, yeah.
Yes, it is definitely a different to your average small business accounts, I guess, and it's an ongoing challenge for us as to how we can communicate those things better. So just a handful of things that I'll comment on. So the Waimate Event Centre fire, a very unusual, unanticipated event. There was insurance proceeds of around 600,000 and received that year. So that shows as income, but the corresponding expenditure is a capital item. So you've got one that bumps up your income and doesn't have a corresponding expense. Development and reserve contributions were above budget by 232,000. That's something that has been reported throughout the year in your monthly financials. Salaries and wages compared to budget were 307,000 less, primarily due to vacancies occurring and the timing of those replacements. Interest costs, they were less than budget by about 79,000 due to delays in borrowing. Insurance costs were 121,000 less than we anticipated. Some savings there. Depreciation and amortisation costs, it's another pretty big number, and again, non-cash, so 570,000 we were behind budget. So that's favourable. The building revaluations in 2024 meant that we updated our depreciation rates, and between the timing of when we budgeted and anticipated what the depreciation would be in the year and then updated what they were as a result of the revaluations, it actually meant that there was about 240,000 we were favourable there. Additionally, there was deferrals of capital projects, which resulted in reduced depreciation. Vested and found assets, which again are terms that often are not heard too much outside of these types of circles. The non-cash items that where those assets were accounted for and recognised as revenue, that was about 220,000. There is further detail on the major variances within note 28 in the annual report, and also touched on in the agenda item. Non-profit and loss items, so council borrowed less than it expected due to a combination of the operational favourable variances along with the deferral of some capital projects, and our cash reserves increased, which essentially that cash will be used to pay for the capital expenditure projects that were not completed in 2025 but are expected to be carried forward to the 2026 financial year. Budget carry forwards is another topic for that new councillors we will discuss in a bit more detail as to what that means in due course. I'll perhaps leave it there and pass to Rudy, and then we can come round to questions after that, if that's okay with everybody.
Yeah, no, good.
Okay. Rudy, are you happy to speak to things audit, please?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Tina. Just firstly, congratulations to the new councillors. I do see some new faces around the table. Tina mentioned that we've had quite an extended audit process for the year. I think it was made even more extended by the fact that we were also auditing the deferred long-term plan. So I guess for most of the councillors, it feels like they've had an audit for a year and a bit. We are actually in a good space. We, subject to council adopting the annual report, I can confirm that my opinion is unmodified, and it's also within the statutory deadline. So I think for a number of years we've been able to achieve that, which is very good. I have also, just before this meeting, issued my final report to council. So I think the process is properly that it will be discussed at the Written Risk in the first instance and shared with councillors. This year we did bring some audit work forward. I think it worked well. taking some of the pressure off the year-end audit. I think changes in local government around, especially the waters area, has put some pressure on us during the LTP audit, and that has had a flow-on effect for the audit of the financial statements. The final audit, we probably had two what I would call hiccups. The one was around, I think Tina alluded to some of the changes that had to be made in the statement of service performance around the safe drinking water targets. Those are mandatory DIA targets, and as we all know, the system for reporting changed towards the end of last year, so they were effectively an entirely new set of rules that came into effect this year that had to be reported against. Council's disclosure is not quite there yet. So there are some things that around the specific rules that we should disclose that's not disclosed yet. But Dan and his team is quite aware of what needs to happen in that space, and that will be resolved next year. The other hiccup was probably the roading valuation. Roading was last revalued in 2022. It was revalued this year. Council employed a new evaluator, so it's not the same person or firm evaluated in 2022, which is a good process. It's always good to rotate valuers, but it does create problems, especially if you want to get the valuer to explain variances compared to the previous valuation. So I do comment on that in the report to council, but I also will make some recommendations around what we think should happen next year in our more detailed letter that we will issue to management in draft next week. So other than that, I think the audit went well. We have a good result in the sense that the opinion is unmodified. It's emphasised, there's an emphasis of matter paragraph in the opinion. It doesn't qualify the audit opinion, and that simply refers to the uncertainty around council's water service delivery plan, which is as yet not been accepted by the Secretary for Local Government. So that emphasis of matter simply refers to that new note 30 that Tina referred to. Lastly, just want to thank Tina and the team. It is a small team, and you know, you're subject to the same pressures, I think, that other councils are subject to due to the level of change that's currently happening. So yeah, thank you for that, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Rudy. Any questions for Rudy at all? No, looks as though everybody's perfectly crystal clear on it, Rudy. Just personally, I'd just like to reiterate what Tina said. Thank you very much for the manner in which you conducted the audits for us alongside us. You know, quite often we've been critical not of you but of the system, that sort of thing. So I just hope that we have someone as open and transparent and willing to talk as for our next audit manager, and hopefully things go well for your next batch of councils that you get to do. And that, I can't see why we have to change around, but that's another argument I'll take up with the Auditor General, but that's all right. And that, so no, thanks very much for all the work that you've done. Rudy, it's been really good working with you.
A pleasure, Craig. I'll try and get you another former South African.
Yeah, that sounds yeah. I think you'll be looking for quite a few more with local water done well, certainly coming into effect shortly. I think you'll need a few more staff.
Yeah.
Yes,
sorry, I do just have a question that I was going to ask, but I might as well just ask it of Rudy.
Yep.
Just where we've got the reference point on page 39, we make the statement about consultations with Maori people. Do we have to have that statement in there specifically? Like, would we not qualify for audit if we didn't have that in there?
So this is page 35 of your document, of our document. Sorry, 39 is our agenda document.
Sorry.
It's in relation to the statement on participation of Maori into the decision-making process.
I thought it was legislative.
Well, I'm just wondering if that's why I'm asking, like, is it legislated that it has to be in there? Because if I don't see why we couldn't just have something like under section 76, which is about decision making, which covers all of our decision making rather than just being, or how we make our decisions rather than just putting it into one demographic. So I just want to know, does it have to be there in that particular order, or can it be more generic where we include everybody in our decision making?
Thank you. The annual report is council's report, but there are specific elements of the report that is governed by legislation. So you've got your statements of service performance, you've got your benchmarking, you've got your statement of compliance and responsibility. And this statement on participation of Maori in the decision-making process is a local government act requirement. And I think if you look at different council annual reports, they probably contain some of the matters. I'm not sure that the format is specifically legislated, but the content is. The audit opinion covers what we call audited information only. This is part of other information. So, you know, where it's located in the annual report is up to council. But I wouldn't see it being incorporated into another section. I think the idea is that it should be a standalone statement.
So, okay, so just to clarify that, so it does need to be a standalone statement under section that's there, as opposed to section 76, which is on decision making and covers all of those subsections under it, which also includes that. So I'm just wondering, we have to pull that specific section out. And I just ask because lots of people ask me about this in the community, so I just want to be clear that it's something we do need to do.
Through the mayor again, I'm not a lawyer, so I think the council does want to make a change. As I said, the annual report is council's report. It would probably be best to maybe get some legal advice on whatever change you want to make.
Thank you.
I think we could probably chase that up, Lisa, with working with LG and Z, asking them the question. They've got some experts up there that will probably be able to clarify.
Yeah, it's just that we keep being told the legislative requirements, we have to have the stuff in here, but I'm because of Audit New Zealand or whatever, but do we? That's what I'm like, do we actually, or are we just thinking that we have to?
Yeah, and we can certainly check up on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Rudy at all? No? Again, thank you very much, Rudy, and we'll let you carry on with your day, and we look forward to working with your replacement when they come.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rudy.
Thank you, Rudy.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's fine, I just had a question. We have to move around in terms of auditors. That's why Rudy has to move.
Rudy has to move around.
Same company, different person.
Yeah, so still Audit New Zealand, but they rotate because they only allow them to do so many years at one council before they rotate them on to the next. So I'm not sure about their thinking behind that decision, but it's something out of our hands. We don't have an option.
I just wondered how it worked.
Yeah. Okay, so question time.
Yes.
Yes,
Open for questions.
Open up
Anything that you need
for
to know?
questions.
Just me.
Councillor Guildford.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there was a talk in your report, your covering report, Tina, around the delays, like the increase in outstanding rates
Yes.
and the
Yes.
impact of that. Are we seeing a trend due to like our economic climate? Like, are you actually seeing a trend that, and you know, it comes back to that whole rates affordability issue, but also
Yes.
that wider societal, like people are struggling
Yes.
and that's impacting on our ability. So that's costing people more in the long run, isn't it? Like with interest and penalties.
Yes, so we don't charge interest, but there are penalties applied as per resolution of council. But yes, I can say that there has been a gradual increase in outstanding rates that could be absolutely perceived as an indicator that our community are finding it challenging to keep on top of their obligations with their payments there. Absolutely. We have in the last couple of years prepared some reports for council that have taken some of those statistics to more transparently show the trends. So that's something we'll be looking to do again shortly. So that will help with your appreciation of what things look like over a longer time span than just a snapshot in time. The report is a snapshot in time.
Yeah, just on that day.
And but inevitably,
because it is useful to give us an understanding, not just from rate setting perspective, but also understanding general hardship in our community, because that's it will be just one indicator that shows a broader picture in the community.
And this is something we look at whenever we look at the financials, when we get this information that comes through. Is there a trend? And that sort of thing. And realistically, there needs to be quite a bit more breakdown done into it, because some people, some businesses don't see a penalty as a major thing. They'd rather hang on to the cash and pay it in one lump sum at the end and that sort of thing. So there needs to be a lot more breakdown of how it is. But I think generally it is an indication that people are struggling out there.
Yeah, it's certainly reflecting
and that sort of thing. This is another bill that they have to pay. And this is why we encourage different methods of payment, the fortnightly, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and that sort of thing. So hopefully we can sort of lessen the load a little bit, or spread it a bit easier for them to manage and that sort of thing. So we encourage that. But it is something probably that it is an indicator of I think times are getting tougher.
Yeah, that's probably just my point, and I'm positive it's not just our district. Like, this is a nationwide trend. But,
but it's difficult because then, I know the likes, I was talking to Dylan the other day around the dog, fees being paid, and I think we were right up there at nearly 100%. So if you're struggling, you'd think, well, there'd be a few people that are not paying their dog fees as well, but that doesn't appear to be happening. So it's just a matter of, I think, interpreting the data and that. So interesting. Tina.
I think it's useful context for you as elected members to take forward into our budgeting conversations.
Yeah.
Because inevitably at the point of setting the rates, we as staff just carry that out at that point in time. We have put into effect the decisions. So that's I guess the opportune time to look at how that can be best managed to mitigate those pressures.
That's why we need to encourage people to apply for the rate rebates as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And getting an understanding that that's not coming. I know I've spoken to a lot of people say, I don't apply for that because that means somebody else is carrying me, and they don't realise it actually comes from central government.
Yeah, and it's just a valuable tool. So it's just good, because it just I was just like, this seems different to what I've seen before. That but it mirrors what I'm seeing in the community as well. So.
And the rates report that we have done in the last couple of years, we do include some stats on rates rebates as well. But we're always inviting everyone to put that word out about the rates rebates as much as we try. There are still a handful of misconceptions out there. We still get people that through the conversations with our rates officer and staff, that they're applying for the first time because we've managed to convince them to do so, but they could have been applying another year's,
Yeah.
potentially receiving it
Yeah.
then, and we can't, the system doesn't allow for retrospective rebates, so it's definitely available, and it's keeping our RATS officer very busy at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions for Tina? Lisa? Councillor Small.
Just, thank you, I know you guys put a heap of work into this and I don't want to take away from that in any way. And I'm just concerned that this is the first time I've seen this whole document in its entirety. And I think that it should be the other way around. I think it should be coming to us before it goes to audit, so that we can go through things, have those discussions before then, rather than right now when we have no choice really in making any changes that we don't agree with. So like I read through all of this and I'm like, got my pen out and I'm making things, and then I'm like, oh, got to the end of it, this needs to be signed for that, it's been done, there are no changes, which is really frustrating because I would have liked this to have been our document. And I know you guys are awesome at what you do and you just get on the roll and you do it and you've got your timelines, and I totally appreciate that, but it kind of makes me feel like, why are we here if we're just ticking a box at the end of this without any tweaks or anything. I know we've seen bits of it, but until you see the whole thing together, you just don't get that picture. And I know we've had LTP and there's been the water stuff, and I get that. And on that note, there's just a few things, and I'm going to say it because I haven't seen it. I'm just going to say a few things that I'd like to see changed, but also just a couple of things that I can't find answers to. So if I could just so one concern that I have is the climate resilience strategy, which we've got in corporate highlights, and not because it's the climate resilience strategy, but because it says in there, it says in the bottom paragraph that, this is on page 44, the strategy provides a long-term framework to help the district adapt to climate change and will guide council's future planning and decision making to support a more sustainable and resilient community. I have problems with that being there because it actually isn't a document that we can use. It needs to come back to council for modification, and in its current state, it's not a good document for us to do future planning and decision making. So I just wonder if that, and I probably can't, but that bottom paragraph should have been taken out to just say we've got the strategy, but it still needs work.
Sorry, could I just have a clarification? If it's not fit for purpose, we can alter it, or that's set.
We can,
Well, we can
I would
alter
say
it.
it
We can alter any policy.
but that's what I'm saying, if we can alter it and it's not fit for purpose, then should it be in here saying that it is?
Has it been adopted?
Yes.
So I would think I was absent when the climate
Yeah,
change
yeah.
strategy, so I'm sorry, Dylan, I'm looking your way.
Through Mr. Mayor, the strategy was adopted. Yes. It was amended at the last time it was brought up, just to separate the action plans from the strategy document, but the strategy has been adopted.
So we're quite happy to say that it is fit for purpose.
Council
Strategy
adopted the
is-
strategy.
Yeah.
Strategy
Saying it
is
is fit for purpose.
the action plans. There's not.
And it's
Okay.
at the
And I
30th
think-
of June too, isn't it? So that decision to amend it happened after the 30th of June.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
the big thing around this is that the previous council in its last meeting made a recommendation that this is a piece of work, the action points is a piece of work that needs to be relooked at and that sort of thing. So that is coming in due course. I've spoken to C about that. As Dylan says, we did adopt the strategy, so technically the strategy is obviously.
Yep, that's fine, if we're happy that that can go in there accurately, then
Yeah.
that's fine, just wanted to.
And I think the difficulty is because we split off the action points that came out of the
Yeah, as
strategy
opposed to
and
the actual
said
strategy.
some of these action points we believe we need to relook at, and that will come back in due course. And as far as this document coming to councillors prior to the day of signing, listen, I agree with that, and that normally the process is that this document would come to the Audit and Risk Committee, and that for them to have a look at and give recommendations to council prior to it being signed off. Unfortunately, due to the elections and everything else, it just hasn't fallen. And I think this is the first time I've seen that it hasn't followed the normal prescribed process. But it is something that I've noted, and I will talk to the Chief Executive about to make sure that we get a cleaner, better process for the next one. And the only other thing, quick question I'll just make is we just have to remember that this is our only looking backwards document, and that, so this is the year that we've just gone through, so this is just reporting on what we've already done.
Yep.
And that, whereas our LTPs and annual plans are the forward-looking ones, and that, so that was just a couple of comments I had.
Yep, no, that's.
Sorry, got you, any questions?
It's all right, no, it's fine. There's another one that I had on, page 126, it's the, just not sure which page to give you, so I'm trying to work this out. So we've got, we have a total on page 62 for roading subsidies of 7,679, but I can't get those to add up. The only roading subsidy amount I can come up with is $4,153 on page 126.
So that's the analysis of other revenue on page
I wrote
62.
it down, it made sense when I was doing it at the time. Yeah, so you've got, on page 62, you've got roading and footpaths, and you've got an amount of 7,679, which is an analysis of revenue for that part, but I can't find an amount that adds up to that. I can only find an amount of $4,153 on page 126. I just wondered where the rest of that money came from. And it might be too curly for now.
So you're talking our pages in the agenda or?
Our pages in the agenda.
Oh, right, okay.
Sorry.
So the
On
first one was
on the computer, our pages 1 to
so the
6.
first one was on page 62.
62 of the agenda.
Which is rates revenue.
Summary
Oh,
of
sorry.
notes to financial statements, summary of
62.
revenue and expenditure for group activities. And then you go down to revenue with roading and footpaths.
So I've got it on my Carolyn.
That's page 58 of your paper agenda probably.
Compared with page 126.
Compared to page 1. So I've got the, it might just be the way I'm reading it, but I just couldn't figure it out. Analysis of revenue expenditure for group activities. Revenue, roading and footpaths, 7,679. And then when I go down-
7,697,000.
Yes, sorry, I'm just reading the
Yeah,
numbers.
yeah,
on
yeah.
here. Yeah, 7,6. And then when I go to page 26, and I try and find those sources of operating funding, I can't find that amount.
I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong here, Tina. I think it is a presentation thing.
It probably is, I just can't figure
Because
out
it's
how
got the operating funding of 5109, and then you go down to the sources of capital funding, 2569, and those together are 7678.
Okay. So what page are you looking at that one on?
So that's on 126. But I think it's because they're not sequential, and it like splits it out, like it's sort of, you've got your operating in one place and then you come down to your capital
Operating funding.
after that, and so that kind of distorts, it's not all together.
So on page 126, what numbers are you looking at?
So I'm looking at, in the blue column,
Yeah, 5109.
the total operating funding of 5109,
Yeah.
and then you go down and add in the sources of capital funding
Yeah.
of 2569, and those together I think get you there. And it's just because it's split, the capital and operating is split out.
Yeah, and then I might have been looking at the, not the actual one too.
Yeah, so it
Yeah,
just,
which is
just
different
kind of
again.
splits you out. So
Yeah, okay, thank you. God, I've spent hours trying to figure that one out.
No, that's
Thank
right.
you.
And listen, if you have any difficulties with any of that stuff, just give us a yell.
Yeah.
I'm sure Melissa will be more than happy to sit down with you for half an hour and
Okay.
clarify.
I went backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards.
Yep.
I can't make that work. I knew it'd be simple. Okay, the other one I had on page 66, these are just clarifications for me. What's the vested asset in the building on McNamara's Road?
So that was the prior year, and I believe it was what was formerly the Slick Skids.
I
Oh,
wondered
yeah.
if that's what it was.
Yeah, where the men's shed are now.
So that was a property that hadn't featured in council's asset register, so hadn't been recognised.
Right, okay. Just something.
It was, of course, previously leased.
It was previously leased to the Slink Skin factory.
Yeah, okay, no, that's
Now it's
right.
come
I
back.
thought that's what it might have been, but I wasn't 100% sure. Okay, what do I have? What's, just trying to understand, when we've got analysis of equity on page 92, and then we've got different accounts for different things. What's endowment land under restricted?
I'm not sure, I was just trying to think where we might have a definition of that, but I guess can generally say these things are very historic and
Right.
inherited.
So that's money that's sitting there under that
It's
umbrella.
it's a reserve, which are not always necessarily represented in cash.
Right,
Because
okay.
this is where we can, we don't think it's prudent to have a bunch of cash in our account, which we'd rather, use it, and like if we had to borrow to have that cash sitting there, it is,
Or this is a
counter economic.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think if there's a document where there are better descriptions of the nature of those reserves. I can see what I can find.
Okay, thank you.
Some endowment land wouldn't be the likes of Knockley Park, where land was gifted to council.
Yeah, well, that's what I wondered, was it something like that?
It would be interesting, it would be really helpful, Tina, to know.
Yeah,
Maybe we could just get a bit of clarification on that out of session, Tina.
No
good,
problem.
thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it's amazing how many times you can look at these things and then you just suddenly pop up. I've probably seen that before and not noticed it, but. And then on the same page, Waimate Community Halls, there's an amount of 33,000 sitting there. Is that right?
34 now.
34, yeah. So
Blue.
what, is that the money that comes in from the rates, or is that?
No, it's not, and I'm going to ask if I can, perhaps look at that one out of session too. I have an idea of where that one may have originated, but I'm just not 100% sure without researching it.
That's good, because I just wonder why there's just $1,000 deposit that's gone in, and then where that came from. And
So the deposits are often interest
okay.
on the funds. So that's, it's a lot of those smaller numbers will be not any movement other than internal interest.
Okay. So my next question on that, is that money available for community halls to spend?
I guess once I can
Figure out where it.
Yeah, let's decide where it's from.
Okay.
I can
Before we
confirm
dish it out.
where it came from and the story behind that one.
Okay, all right, I'll leave
And
that
it
one
might
to
depend
time.
how far back it goes as to how easy that is to do, but I have an inkling, but I just would rather check.
Okay,
before.
no, that's fine.
Yes.
Thank you, I'm getting there, sorry,
That's
my
all right.
big list of things. So, what's my next one? So, when I look at page 51 on our computer, so 47 on your, I've got operating expenditure broken down, and then I've got other expenses, which is quite a large amount of money, and there's not much of a breakdown for that.
Not on that report, so then under note 8, do you still think?
Yeah, if I could just find note 8, I had a look at that and I still didn't think there was much of a breakdown. There's note 8.
Note 8 is on that.
Oh yeah, so we go to note 8, which I haven't found yet. I remember what it was.
So page 71 or 67 on the actual report.
Yeah, there we go. So it's broken down, and we've got a lot of that is audit stuff, but there's still 7.3 million which isn't broken down. So I think we've broken down, a small amount of that, but not a large amount of that. And then you've got other operating expense underneath it, but it still doesn't tell me. It just seems to me like a huge chunk of money to just have as other, when the other stuff's broken down to within like thousands.
So I know some things in that area are, we're required to disclose them in a certain way, such as the audit fees.
Yeah, which is huge.
Which there is sufficient, detail in
Yes,
there
yeah.
to tell us what they were. I'm not aware of a prescribed format that we need to follow for the balance of it, so it's definitely something we could consider.
Like, would we see that, sorry to interrupt, would we see those broken down in another report? Or is this
for your annual, well, only through your regular sort of monthly reporting, we sort of slice it a couple of ways with by activity and also by expense type. But not, I don't believe in this manner.
Right.
So that is something we can consider. I guess it's as far as general financial report preparation goes, it's a balance between having too much
Yeah, I
information
get that.
versus not enough. But
It is a large chunk of money.
if that's something that the collective are interested in seeing more detail on, we could look at that for the future.
Yeah.
And I guess
I think it's something we could have a look at. I'll put it on the to-do list with the CE.
Yeah.
And that for a discussion about whether we can break that down into some slightly smaller packets.
There is a note to advise on the nature of them, but I can appreciate that doesn't come with the values associated with those. But the note is here to provide some context to the sorts of things in there. But
Yeah, it would just be useful.
Each of them would be
Well, it'd just be useful for people to have an idea of, what actually $7 million of their money is being spent on specifically.
Yeah.
It could be that it
Noted.
may not be in this report that is disclosed. We could look at some.
Oh, yeah, it could be in something different.
There
Yeah,
could
I
be something else.
appreciate that.
I'll find out, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you. And there's a few little ones, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I can end up in the time, thank you.
Thank you for reading it.
Oh, good job.
Yeah, that's good.
I read everything.
Everybody's doing their homework. Well done. Any other questions for Tina?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. On page 56, when we are looking at the disclosure statements and we've got the rates affordability graphs and stuff, clearly, and again, I imagine that this is largely a nationwide trend, it's really concerning how small that gap has become. And again, I'm a bit rusty on this stuff, but like we've got that cap, that benchmark thing. What happens if that benchmark's exceeded? Like, is these legislated measures, I'm assuming, and then what are the consequences of those measures?
So these ones, I just want to make sure I'm correct in what I'm about to say, but I was inclined to think, because these are prescribed, they are prescribed disclosures, so we have no ability to customise those. So it's straight from the financial strategy, which council sets. That's where the limit comes from.
Right. Okay.
So there is some control by council over how that's set. If council breaches it, to the best of my understanding, I don't believe there is any consequence.
It's a self-imposed cap.
Okay, so that's what we are aiming for. It's not a nationwide measure.
No.
Yeah.
No,
It's set by us.
Yeah.
So that, and I think tell me if I'm wrong, Nicole, and I see you if shaking your head in the background if I'm wrong.
Usually, you set it as a bit of a wake-up call. When you start to see budgets with operations spend, but in particular capital, and you start to see that number going towards the cap that you've put on, then
Yeah.
you can start to ask questions about, hey, we're spending, do we need to agree as a council that we're going to shift to allow borrowings, and you
Yeah.
sort of watch that line. So yes, it's self-imposed, there'll be a much higher number, which Tina will be able to go into in regards to how much as a council overall you can borrow, and then you set a line and say, if it starts to go near here, red flags are up, what's going on, are we tempering our...
So I thought they just look very close together to be in, like, there's a clear trend.
Yeah.
This is great, like these graphs, this presentation is awesome for me, because it's that visual, like it's so clear and it's like, oh, this is getting really close.
And a lot of it, Jack, is dependent on what we're at and when it comes to capital works programs. You know, we're doing a lot in the water or roading space. You know, that gap can close up pretty quickly.
Changes in the next couple of years, I
If
assume.
I may through the chair, you will start to see a lot of conversation around this and a lot more information as we start to work towards your annual plan for next year, but most certainly into your long-term plan. We start to bring you all these scenarios and information. Tina will do an awful lot of work in that space, and with input from teams of where they think that expenditure needs to be, what we need to be looking at for capital, and you'll start to see scenarios that start to link with how you might wish to set rates and then where you're borrowing. So then that becomes that give and take. So you will get an awful lot of workshops and an awful lot of information over this next year and a half, and that's what that's about. So that's the introduction, from the rear view for now.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing for me too is that I quite like seeing it close together, because I think it shows we've done our homework. Like when we've set that, it's very easy to fudge this by putting in an artificially high cap and saying, look how wonderful we're doing, we're well below the cap. But what I'd rather see is this, to say that we've thought long and hard about where the cap needs to be and what our expenditure is coming up. So the closer those two get together, that shows you the closer we are to what we planned on doing and what's actually happening is actually about right. So
but if I may through the chair, that's exactly right. Because you're going out to the public and promising via council and governance that we're going to do X amount of capital works, X amount of things. If that number starts to come down, you've either made a specific decision to start to save money, and therefore you can have a conversation in the race, or you are on track and you are delivering as per the promises made to the public.
I think too that one of the options we had was borrow more and push our rates rises out. And unequivocally, the feedback we got was no, don't borrow money.
Get on it done.
Give it to us now.
So through your financial strategy, you set your limits based on those types of decisions. And this is all this is doing is just documenting how the rates were set and calculated against the limits that you imposed. And of course you have control over both sets of decisions. However, the strategy is only generally visited as part of the LTP process. So it's just a how we tracking with what we said we would do.
So the council has made that decision that they're not going to create a distortion to save it from its reality.
No. And as I said, Paul, what we're trying to do is taking all the information that we have, and that this is what we need to do, this is how much it's going to cost, allowing for a little bit of inflation or cost overruns. We believe the rates cap should be about here. So if that what we're planning on doing is or what we've done is close to what we planned on doing, I think that's a good outcome. As I said, it's very easy. We could say, oh, we'll put the rates cap at 15% for no other reason than to make it look better than what it is. And, oh, look, we're tracking really well. We're only at 70% of the rates cap. But to me, that's poor planning, because I think the two should be close together. Because it shows you that you're on track, you're delivering what you said you're going to be delivering for the cost that you said it's going to cost. And that is via your rates.
Okay. It's good to
Happy with that?
Yeah,
And
no,
it'll
it's
get
good.
to-
It's just clarification.
Yeah,
It's just getting my head back around
And
it.
it'll all get to get your heads around it,
Yeah,
because
please.
this time next year we'll be starting in an LTP process. So that's when we start looking at all that
I'm the chair,
That,
I become your best friend.
planning and strategies and all the rest. Any other questions at all in relation to the annual rate? Yeah, another one, Dick?
Well,
Yeah, that's right.
Just again in your summary report, which was really helpful, and it's probably more for Dan, just the roading budget change, like that was a big swing in budgeted income and wow.
Yep.
So they
Yep.
really
That's NZTA allocation for you.
bless them. That's,
Yep.
yeah, that's nothing you can do about that, but you're totally at the mercy of the decision makers, aren't you?
And I know that our staff go out with probably what's considered a relatively conservative budget when we approach NZTA, and it's really disappointing to see. And it's great, yes, we're getting 68 cents on the dollar, one of the highest in the South Island, if not the highest in the South Island, but we're only getting it on a very small budget.
Yeah.
And to have, I know that our team put a lot of work into getting the budget right for what we need to do, and being constantly cut back, and it was substantial.
That's a huge swing. I was quite shocked.
And I know that some councils have had to redo their LTP assumptions because of the budget changes, because it's significant. I think Timaru, had that issue and that sort of thing. So it's always a challenge, and I think this is a case of too much work and too little money in the whole system.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we're seeing the proposal to change to road user charges on every vehicle to try and increase that funding. And that, so it is difficult.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're stuck with what we're stuck with. I'm
that was
thankful
sort of my
that we
read
get the
of it,
subsidy
and I'm
that
like,
we do.
well, that's a big shift. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions at all? Okay. If there's no other questions, first of all, just a couple of thanks. Thanks to the staff, all the staff involved, because I know everybody's involved in this. Special thanks to the girls in the finance team, because I know there's a lot of work goes into this. And as you can see from this, right down to the last minute, we've got changes here and changes there and that sort of thing. And that note taken about we need to do better getting it to the elected members. Don't disagree. We'll sort that out. And that, but no thanks to all the management team for the work you've done to get it to us. I know it's always a challenge with getting these documents to us on time. And that, so in conclusion, I'm happy to move recommendations 1, 2 and 3 is topographical and formatting changes and correct. Is that sufficient for what's we've been presented with you? Or do we need to put it as sufficient?
So the changes that you have on that schedule were from the version you as elected members received with the agenda.
Yeah.
However, audit based their opinion on the version that includes all those changes.
Right.
So it's just if there was any minor corrections that have been spotted between the version that audit have approved.
I just wanted to make sure that this was
Publishing.
okay. Yeah, okay.
So I think one typo may have been identified and correct.
Okay, so as I said, I'm happy to move recommendation 1, 2 and 3. Seconded Councillor Stevens. Put the motion all in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. And that was the last agenda item that I'm aware of, so I will close the meeting. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. Sorry about the up and down, in and out today, but unfortunately this one